Welcome back to the Daily Dose. Welcome back to the Daily Dose, says the girl with Parkinson's whose voice is unreliable. Robert, we have a guest here, Andrea, uh, mistress of the amazing All In. It must have taken you guys years to plan it. It was beautiful, and we'd love to continue debriefing that experience.
And I want to jump in with the PMD Alliance. You were talking about this idea of open space and the value of open space. And, we play with that in particular in improvisation. We have this, one of our more popular power phrases is trust the unknown. And we added a piece to it last week that just came to me, which was, you learn to trust the unknown, which really fascinates people by training for the unknown. And you are talking about the same thing in terms of your conference space, that you are encouraging people to take that. I think some places call it white space, right? Where it's just, unstructured time to say the mere act of being together, mere in quotes, and within this, space that we've created is going to allow something valuable to have it. And we don't need to define it beforehand. We trust the people to find it. Is that right?
Absolutely. It takes courage and vulnerability but we don't know what's going to happen. What if it all goes wrong? Yeah, you have to be courageous enough you're right. Everyone could stare at each other and start arguing about politics and religion. But if you have that, and I love what you said about training for it. If you've experienced that, practiced it maybe in smaller doses, then you can lean into that trust and go into that white space.
And the greatest training that happened was the very first night, a bunch of people went out and did karaoke together.
Totally.
I mean, how unexpected and unplanned.
Right.
In community building.
And that was fire to me, because as a guy who used to be a karaoke DJ and done a lot of that work, you see people kind of take it and they, whatever, oh, this is fine. But there must have been 25 people that showed up to that simple invitation. And not only did they show up, nobody was sitting on the wall. They were all singing. And not only were they all singing, this is the most beautiful part of the karaoke experience. It wasn't about, hey, look at me. Every person that got up there, every other person was cheering them on and singing with them. They were playing together. It was a microcosm of what was to come.
I love that. And so my family's from the Philippines, where karaoke is like a national sport. And I think it goes with that vulnerability. Like when you're not afraid to look dumb and put it all out there, I think that's what makes the best karaoke performers, and maybe a lot of other things in life too, that you're just like, really can't carry a tune, and I'm not a professional dancer, but I am laying it out there. I think that's what gets people engaged, and then makes them clap along. So I love that as kind of the microcosm.
I do too. There's an authenticity to it. I think that people try to plan for that, and this is where obviously it's the reason I've set the company up and why I argue for it in terms of research for Parkinson's, its benefit. We don't know what's going to happen next in Parkinson's. None of us do, right? The care partners, the doctors, the people with Parkinson's, the wellness providers, none of us do. However, we can train for that unknown by providing safe and brave spaces, right? It can't just be, too many times I see people, put in a corner, go, well, they're safe. It's like, yeah. And are they given an opportunity to express themselves, like you just said, to be their full selves, to explore new parts of themselves that maybe they'd never dreamed of, being a singer, being a dancer, being a painter, being a communicator in some fashion, writer, whatever it is. How do we provide that space for not only people with Parkinson's, care partners, wellness providers? How do we do that?
This is so profound. This is like blowing my mind. I love talking to you too. And I'll add that in our world, healthcare providers, physicians, nurse practitioners, advanced practice providers, PMD Alliance, our scope is what we call the entire ecosystem of care. And sometimes it's those healthcare providers that are the most buttoned up, and rightfully so, because they have malpractice and, white coats and all that. But I think all of the folks that you mentioned, all of those different roles and perspectives can benefit from, that white space, being vulnerable, being brave. So completely agree.
Yeah. And it comes back to one of our favorite words, Susan. I think it's play, right? It's how
Yeah.
do we get everybody to play together? What do you think about that, Susan?
It was my word of the year last year, and it really inspired me to get past that little space of uncomfortableness. And I learned that the training of the unknown comes in many forms. It can be the obvious ones and can be many more subtle things too. Just to jump in, jump into the sandbox and play.
Well, and in unexpected spaces too. It was in my presentation. It's still one of my favorite stories to tell about Susan, both using the yes and in her deep brain stimulation, which was amazing as a something to keep her calm and well, and then also using one of the games we play within a very difficult neurological assessment with a clinician who didn't know, however, was kind enough, was brave enough on her part to say yes and to Susan without any improvisational background and play with her. And the game, by the way, simple enough so that it didn't need vast training. And that's where I want to see, because you're so right that the clinicians, the providers, they're in need of care too. They're under a lot of pressure.
Yeah.
And they need that same space to be able to communicate still as a thought and opinion leaders, and as human beings to have that respective space. Do you hear much about that?
Well, I see, in all the Medscape, journal alerts that I get in my inbox every day, there's always something about provider burnout.
Yes.
And I think, going back to being allowed to be human and, hey, they are, very well trained and experts, but can you be, an expert in your field and your, subspecialty and be a human being? I really hope so. And I think that story of, the yes and during DBS, that provider was, being a human being when you needed them to be.
Yeah. We
Yeah.
are well over time, so I apologize for having to cut this. And Susan, I'll just add, I want to make sure, do you want to go one more, Susan? Do you have one more, or are we good for right now?
I'm good. I mean, I'm in for I'm all in for another if
Andrea, would you
Andrea.
like one more? Are you okay?
Sure.
Because yeah,
Yeah.
I was gonna say we're over time, but there's not gonna be no problem filling. So folks, come back for day 3, so episode 3 of this Daily Dose with our good friend Andrea from PMD Alliance.